So excited to be here for my second story. I welcome you to my Patreon account. Thank you so much for joining. I have stories every month coming in, and today's story goes way back to the beginning before all of this really deep sexual exploration started. And it starts with the reason why I actually started going into deeper sexual exploration. And so the title is My Husband Comes Out That He is Bisexual. So I'm going to tell you about what happened, how we got to that point where he revealed this to me, how he revealed it to me, then what my reaction was, and what I ended up doing after that, what we ended up doing after that. Let's get into the story. Grab your wine, your coffee, get comfortable, and let me get into what actually happened. Whew. So, we were married for 13 years, and we had a really good relationship. We were very communicative. We had a lot of sex. The two of us, we played around with domination, me being dominant at that time. He was really interested in being dominated over. We had talked a bit about maybe going to somewhere else, public, maybe to a sex club, maybe to somewhere where other people could see us. But we were scared. We were pretty terrified. So we didn't actually do anything, but we talked about it, and it was enough to sort of titillate us. And we were talking about each other's fantasies, and we were having fun. We were a pretty open, sexually open couple in the sense of being in a monogamous relationship. And he told me a lot about his past. You know, he had explored before marriage with guys. His father, he found out when he was around 6 or 7 that his father was gay. And so when he got to the age of, maturity and sexual interest, he was kind of confused because his father was gay, he was not, he was into women, but he was kind of attracted to guys, and he had a number of different kinds of experiences as a teenager and into his 20s, a few other experiences with guys, mostly with women, but also with guys. And nobody really used the word bisexual at that time, so he wasn't classifying himself as anything like a bisexual, but he felt like there was something else, something more. He had a high sex drive, but he was really into women. And when we met, we were just madly in love. We had a deep, loving relationship. And I got pregnant very quickly into the relationship. We married in August, and I was pregnant by February. So we really got married and had children, started to have children right away, not by choice. It happened unbeknownst to us, but I was 32 then, he was 33, so it was quite a good time to start having children. So we had 2 children, and we had a really great, a great connective relationship and good sex. And, we had the ups and the downs, of course, but we generally had good sex. But coming into the 11th, 12th year mark, there was a lot of tension that seemed to start to develop. I was feeling like he was pulling away a lot, and he wasn't revealing certain things to me. Like, he would like to bike ride, and he would go for these bike rides, and sometimes it would be for 4 hours, and I would kind of like calculate, okay, so 4-hour bike ride, where did he go? How long is it? 4 hours is a long time to bike ride. Wondering where he was, what he was doing, and he always had some kind of reason for being so long. I usually often did not ask him. I just completely and totally trusted him. But it did feel odd. And one time when I did ask him, because he came home and it was late It was dark. I said, where have you been? I was actually worried that something had happened and I couldn't connect with him. He got angry that I was prying into his life and that I was showing, you know, a certain form of mistrust, distrust. And then I thought, okay, something weird going on. Like, there's no reason for him to be angry. And we just kept pulling away. Something was going on with him and our relationship. We were just not as connected as we had been in the past. And I didn't know what it was. I really did not believe that he was seeing another woman, but I had no idea what else he could possibly be doing. Then what happened was he went away for the weekend to an Abraham Hicks conference in San Francisco. He wanted to have some time off on his own. And I said, okay, because we had just come back from, it's a whole other story. We'd come back from traveling around the world with our kids. And so we had spent a lot of time together, and we'd come back to Vancouver. We moved into a new house. We were settled in. So it was kind of, it was time. Okay, we each needed a little bit of a break from each other. He said, I'm going to drive down to San Francisco. I'm going to go to this conference. I didn't really want to go. I didn't want to drive. I wanted some space from him. Things were not great with him. And we thought, oh, this would be so nice to have some space. So off he went for the weekend, or 4 days, whatever. And he didn't really connect with me much that whole time, which felt a bit odd. But I thought, okay, let him have his space. I have my space, and we'll be back together soon. So when he finally came home, which was, around 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, I had kind of prepared that we would be together. So the kids were doing their own, I think they were at sleepovers or something, so they weren't home. He had been driving for, 7, 8 hours that day. And he came in and he was very hyper. And he said, he just couldn't keep still, and he was telling me some of his story, but he was really agitated and really distracted. And he said, let's go for a drive. Let's go somewhere. Let's go for a drive. I'm like, drive? You want to drive? You've just been driving for 8 hours. No, I want to go for a drive. I want to let you just get out of the house and go for a drive. And I'm like, okay. So we get in the car, and we're living in Vancouver, and he starts driving. He drives out of the city to North Vancouver over the bridge. I'm like, where? I thought, okay, I don't know where we're going. We're going for a drive. We start driving up the mountain, okay? Cypress Mountain. It's a switchback, goes up, up, up. It's a ski hill just in the north part of the city. We're going up and up and up. And this is in the summer, so it's clear, but it's dark now. And there's nobody up there. There's a little lookout point. Maybe there's a few cars. And he goes past the lookout point. I'm like, what is going on? Where are you going? And he's quiet, and he drives up. And then he said, okay. And then he pulls over the side of the road where there is nobody, no cars. It's up quite high. By then, no one is in that area. There's no cars coming up or down. Way up above the lookout point, but below the ski hill. And he stops, and okay, I said, okay, this is it. This is enough. You got to tell me what the fuck is going on here. I'm so confused. And he's just still so agitated, and he can't say, tell me what's going on. Come on. He said, okay, I do have to tell you something. I have to tell you something. And then I just felt like, holy shit, my heart fell out of my body. Because I thought, oh my God, he wants a divorce. That's the first thing I thought. And he said, okay, listen, I don't know how to say this, but I'm just going to come out and say it, because if I don't, I'm going to burst. But I have been experimenting. I have been experimenting with guys. I have been cheating on you. Like, what? What have you been doing? What? It was just such a shock, a shift from anything I expected to hear. He said, I've been having sexual connections with guys outside the relationship. So, of course, the questions come out after the shock. I get over the shock. Okay, how long has this been going on? He says, maybe over a year. Maybe 2. Okay, how many encounters? How many encounters did you have? how many people have you been seeing? He said, I don't know. I was like, how many? He's like, well, he starts to count. He says, I don't like maybe 6 or 7. So at this point, I'm just like, I'm quite in shock because one of what he's told me, that he has been sleeping behind my back with men, and two, that he's lied to me, that I'm starting to like think, where, oh my God, this is what he's been doing. This times he hasn't coming, he's been gone for 4 hours and he hasn't come back on the bike. And I guess he's been doing that. And when else was he doing it? And I started to go over my head. When was he doing it? When was it going on? How often did it take place? I was just like, okay, just a second here. Okay, I get it. Okay. And I know it was a little bit hard to breathe at first because I fully trusted this man, okay? Fully. I believed everything he said, and I took it as the truth. Because why wouldn't I, right? Why wouldn't I? I mean, we are intimate connection. We're an intimate partnership. We're married. We've been together for 12 years. We are quite open in our conversations. Why wouldn't I trust him? So when I find something out that is a complete different world he's been having from me that I haven't heard anything about, and he's been lying to me about it, which is even bigger, it just put me into a state of shock for about a week. It was a shock, but at the same time, I was in shock. I was relieved. I was relieved because holy shit, finally, I know what the fuck has been going on. Why there's all this tension. Why he hasn't been talking to, why he's been lying to me. Finally, you cannot understand that relief when you are trying to figure out what your partner is doing, why they're so strange, why they're not being forthcoming to what's going on in their lives, what they're feeling, why they're not talking to you. It's so unnerving. It's so uncomfortable. So to finally get the truth, it was just like, oh, thank fucking God, now I have the truth. So I was relieved. At the same time, like, there was shock as well, but the relief was big. And I had also been thinking, I've been in this relationship for 12 years. I mean, can I continue this relationship? Can I continue just sleeping with this man for the rest of my life? Can I do that? Is this something that we have to do? Like, I was only my mid 40s then. I figured I'd probably live another 45, 50 years halfway through my life. So there was that relief too, that, well, okay, someone's finally come out with some truth here. I mean, I guess I was holding some things back within myself too, and not able to reveal. And he was doing things that he was not revealing. So that's how it happened. And I was quite angry for a while, asking a lot of questions about where he was, what he was doing. He was there to talk to me. He was trying to connect with me. He didn't know what my decision was going to be. I didn't know what my decision was going to be at this point. I just needed to process what was going on, what had happened, how my whole entire relationship now was like quite different than I had ever expected it to be. I needed to process this information. And so to process it, I'm a very curious person. I need more information. I need to know where, what, who, why, when, everything. So the questions were coming out for that week. And at the same time, I would just be flat out dead in the bed, slightly depressed, unhappy that I have to go through this and didn't really know what I was going to do about it yet. And one night when my daughter asked me, are you okay, Mom? Like, I realized, okay, the kids are feeling something serious is going on with me. I said, I'm not great, but I'm trying to figure something out. It's nothing to do with you guys. Just, I need some time. And that night, my husband went out He had an event he had to attend, and I said, go, go. Like, I need some time on my own. I went in to try to figure this out. I can't, I'm going to go freaking crazy trying to, like, I kept going over my head, like, where was he? When was he there? Who was he with? How long was he there? What was he doing? Why did he do it? Why didn't he tell me? The same questions coming over and over again. I said, I can't live like this. I can't live like this for another second. So I decided to do the pros and cons kind of scenario on a piece of paper, all the great things about being with this man and all the things that are not so great, including he lied. He's a cheater. He lied to me. And he's bisexual. Is that good or bad? I don't know. That was kind of in the middle. I was trying to find something. I was trying to find a big reason why I should stay with this person. And so I wrote and wrote for hours, everything that came out of me. And then I stopped and looked at all this information, all these pros and cons, and what is going to hold me here? What am I going to do? Am I going to stay here? I'm going to leave this relationship? And I realized that, whoa, just a second, like, he's been exploring. He's been sexually exploring. And one of the words I had down was, he's an explorer as a pro. Yes, love is there. Love was there. I love this man. I've been here for 13 years with him. We have children. We do a lot of great things together. He makes me laugh. He's curious. He's funny. You know, he's very funny. He's definitely not a boring moment. He's an explorer. And that really stuck with me because I'm also an explorer, and I want to explore this. He's exploring the sexual dimension. He's exploring sexually, and I want to do the same thing too. You know, maybe we can do this together. And that changed my whole mood. And suddenly I'm like, yeah, we can do this together. We can explore together. I don't know how. I don't know what we're going to do exactly. I don't even know. I didn't know the word open relationships really. I mean, open, let's open it up. Let's see what happens. I don't know what steps we were going to take, but I knew that we could explore. He was exploring, and I was going to explore too, and I could do it with him. You know, maybe I could do it with him. So he didn't get home till quite late. I was sleeping by then. I was exhausted. The next night I said, we're going to have dinner together, and I have something to tell you. So I went into it slowly with the pros and the cons. I said, finally, after talking to him about my whole experience, writing this information down and all the things I've been thinking about it, I said, okay, now what I've decided is that I want to stay with you. I want us to stay together, and I want us to sexually explore together. And he just sat there with his mouth open. What? He had totally expected me to say, I'm leaving. I think that's one of the reasons why he didn't tell me for so long, because he thought I would leave him. He thought I would not accept him for who he was. He barely accepted himself for who he was. Barely. I mean, he had been living with this, am I bisexual? Why do I like men? Why am I interested in exploring with a cock? Why am I interested in men? I love women. I love my wife, but I have this desire. And so he never had a clue or even had the slightest thought that I would say what I said. So he was sitting there, huh? What? And then a big smile came on his face. Say, okay, yes, let's do it. And we lightened up. I lightened up. I mean, that night we then came together and had a beautiful sexual connection, the best we had ever had, just deeper level, because we had been so intimate with each other. We had exposed deep levels of information that we had been hiding, or he had been hiding, and then this decision to, like, let's move forward into this was big for both of us. And so we just came together so intimately. for days after that. And then, there was still stuff to figure out. There was still stuff to figure out because now, what were we going to do? How were we going to approach this? What was our first step going to be? He had a sort of a whole plan in mind around I was going to leave him, and he was planning to like go get a little place, start writing a book, because I wasn't going to be with him, or he thought that might be nice actually to be on his own partially. But when he heard that I was interested in sexually exploring with him, well, everything changed. Everything changed, and everything had to be restructured. We fell in love again, really, is what happened. For something that was like a knife in the heart first, it turned out to almost be like it was a transformation for both of us. So, yeah. And that's where the story starts. Season one, part one story, our first threesome, that was the first thing we did together. It took me about 3 months before I actually went and did my first threesome with him. He was so excited. It started off because he had been exploring, so it wasn't that easy to just be, okay, I'm going to sexually explore with you, we're going to open the relationship, let's go. He'd already been for a couple of years looking online, talking to guys, having the occasional meetup. He all behind my back, which was partially, I think, exciting for him. It was something of his own. And now here, his wife is going to get involved. Now his wife wants to know, what are you doing? Where are you going? Who are you going with? What time are you going? When are you coming back? I want to know before you do it. All of these rules were coming in, and he was that was a little bit difficult for him to shift into that, from the complete freedom to now wife involved and wanting to know everything. And I needed time to adjust, right? I didn't want to say, no, you can never explore again. If you do, that's it, we're over. I didn't want to go that route. I knew that this was something that he had to do and he wanted to do, and I also wanted to explore. And I wasn't sure how I wanted to do that yet, but he'd already started, so let's go. So he wanted to continue doing some of his explorations. I wasn't sure about mine. I was trying to figure out the boundaries for me because I was jealous. I was scared. I wanted him to tell me before he would meet someone, and he didn't in the beginning. He would tell me after. I would get angry. It was a lot of figuring out that we had to do. So he said, we have to do something together. And I knew it. I knew I had to, first of all, be with him while he was with another man, so I could demystify that. I just had no idea what that looked like or what they were doing. It was hard for me to imagine that in my head. I mean, I imagined it, but really, like, in reality, I just came up with all these fantasy, wild stories that I didn't know if that was even true or if that was even possible, or I didn't know how he really felt, So we needed to do something together, but it was scary for me. The idea of being with two men, my husband and a complete stranger. It was scary for me to, as a woman of mid-40s, of a mother of two children, of a wife of 12 years, to suddenly step out of that role and start having sex with other people, with my husband. It was scary. And it was just not the common thing that people were doing, or at least not talking about, right? People were not talking about it. People were doing it, but people were definitely not talking about it. I definitely didn't know anybody who was doing it. I was looking online too, like, bisexual husband, what do you do? I couldn't find anything that was decent, that was favorable, that was positive. Most of it was, he's a cheater, he's a liar, he's not leave him, that type of thing. So I said, that's what I'm doing. I'm here, I'm staying. And I'm going into this. And so finally, when I said, okay, let's do it. We found picture of a guy that I was interested in. I thought, okay, he looks good. And then I found out my husband said, listen, you can stop anytime you want. You have the power here, okay? If you don't like him at any point, we will stop. So that really helped me a lot. Go through the first steps of having my first threesome, having our first sexual exploration outside of monogamy together. And that's my first story that some of you have already heard. But I wanted to give this background information so you can understand, how did I get into this? How did we start actually sexually exploring? And how did I make that decision? How did we make that decision? How did we make that decision to actually go into sexually exploring? So it started with the first threesome, and there were many, many more. And I'm going to tell you some more stories. Next month, I will have another story for you about one of the explorations that he and I go on. We really, I will say that this is a difficult road for a couple, especially if you've been monogamous for a long time, because you've got I had a lot of stuff to deal with as a woman and a mother and a wife, as I was saying. I mean, I had to break down all of those beliefs about who I was and start to believe and start to embrace that I am a sexual being, that I am a sexual woman, that men are going to find me attractive, that my body is beautiful, that it's okay to have sex, all of these things. I had to start being comfortable to be able to talk about sex with strangers. I had not talked about sex with strangers ever. And now we started meeting all sorts of different men in the beginning, a lot of men, meeting for coffees and drinks and talking to them about sex, about what do you like, what have you done, what I like, what I have done, what kind of things I prefer to do, and really talking about sex. And so it opened up a whole new world for us, and it really created much more intimacy for us as a couple, being able to express our desires, express our fantasies, and to accept them within each other. So it was a journey that I went on with this man, which lasted for about 10 years. 10 wonderful years. All right, I hope you enjoyed that story. If you have questions, you feel like there's something missing, or any other deeper questions about what I've been talking about, or questions about what you're going through, please feel free to put them in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Mwah! Much lovemaking.